I'm stationed as a guard at a remote Alaskan outpost, and tonight for the first time I watch one of our rules appear to break itself. They call this phase of polar winter the long night, 40 days straight without a sunrise. I took the graveyard shift because the idea of silence sounded appealing after a chaotic year. A broken engagement, a court-ordered leave from my engineering job. This assignment felt like a form of penance. No one else wanted it, an isolated post, with hazard pay, a chartered flight to a patch of frozen earth with no name, and more importantly, time to think. My responsibilities were simple. Guard a set of prefabricated steel modules, keep the generator running, and follow 5 rules that felt more like warnings etched in stone. We arrived during a kind of twilight that never ends. The helicopter's rotor scattered snow across a dim landing pad lit by old sodium lamps. Finch, the day runner, met me with a handshake that barely concealed his unease. "Get inside before the fog eats your eyebrows," he joked nervously. I followed him through a narrow entryway that smelled of diesel and frozen meat. The outpost's main hall is a steel corridor no wider than a subway car, with doors branching off to labs and bunks on one side and machine rooms on the other. Just inside, a metal plaque hangs like a warning: generator fuel, never below 70%. No exterior lights after 18 o'clock. Main gate padlocked from outside at dusk. Radio check every hour. If only static replies, bunker immediately. Never open the decommissioned wing. The letters were carved deep, with what looked like a screwdriver hard to ignore. I remember thinking that rules this straightforward usually exist, because someone died to make them necessary. Wilder, the medic, gave me a quick exam, jotting notes while glancing at the corridor windows like he was timing the darkness. Mara, the comms technician, introduced herself by handing over an encrypted thumb drive and informing me that it would leave with her at the end of the season. Oren, the glaciologist, barely acknowledged me, mumbling about a live ice as he studied his spectrograms. The armory sits beside a utility closet. 1 pump-action shotgun. 2 boxes of slugs locked behind mesh. It's more for peace of mind than real defense. Out here, the cold kills faster than claws. At 18 o'clock sharp, Finch and I locked the main gate. Heavy bar stock, thick chain. Couldn't be broken without industrial cutters. The cold bit through my gloves as we snapped the lock into place. Finch exhaled into the air. "That's the sound of being forgotten," he said. "Sleep tight." Then he rolled off in the tractor, the only vehicle we're allowed to use. Outside during the day. As the diesel faded, the outpost felt tighter, like a ship's hull. I stowed my gear in the bunkhouse and reported to the ops station, a ring of glitchy monitors. Wilder handed me a checklist. Fuel at 80%, wind steady, no seismic events. My job, it seemed, was to keep it that way. At 20 o'clock, I began my first perimeter check. Motion-triggered LEDs blinked on and off as I walked the corridors. The strobing makes it easy to imagine things, shadows that don't move with you. I inspected extinguishers, tightened a loose shroud bolt on the generator's exhaust. Its hum vibrated through my jaw, oddly reassuring, like a steady pulse. One section of the circuit always put me on edge, the door behind Rule 5. Just a riveted steel panel with redundant latches, painted the same dull gray as the walls. No markings, no tag. Someone had welded a crossbar over the hinges. The metal was faintly warm. Unlike the hallway around it, none of our systems provided heat back there. I ignored the urge to press my ear to it. Back in ops, I logged the round. No anomalies. Then came the hourly radio check. Outpost to relay, status green. A woman's voice crackled back. Relay to outpost. Copy. Next check 2100. Stay warm. I sipped some powdered coffee. Nobody goes for a second cup and scrolled through. Oren's infrasound logs, each are produced clean peaks, round 20 Hz below human hearing, but strong enough to register on sensors. Glacier grunt, Oren called it, nothing unusual. I told myself. The generator kept thudding like distant artillery. At 20 to 58, Mara emerged from her radio room, rubbing her eyes. "You hear it yet?" she asked. "Hear what?" She tapped the wall. 1959 cycle, every 59 minutes. The signal spike structured, almost like code. She turned her screen to show a spectrogram. A jagged line, repeating perfectly. The source triangulates inside the decommissioned wing. But we're not supposed to care. Before I could respond, the corridor lights flickered. Voltage dip. Normal. But it came just as she said that. It made the hair on my neck stand up. I excused myself to begin the 23 o'clock patrol. Wind howled outside, rattling the walls. Inside, only the sound of my boots and the faint buzz of fans. I stopped at the gate out of habit. The padlock was still there. My breath fogged in front of me. A ridge of snow had drifted up against the threshold, sculpted like a frozen beach. Something told me to shine my flashlight down. One boot print, deep, crisp edges, no wind scour. Not mine. I wear composite toe service boots. This one had a rounded heel and a brand logo I didn't recognize. Even stranger, it pointed inward like whoever made it stepped in from the dark and never stepped back out. I swept the perimeter. No second print, no disturbance. The snow sparkled clean in my light. Back. Inside, I checked the padlock again. Still latched, but a faint half circle of frost had formed around the shackle. Like warm fingers had touched it recently. I double-checked everything, then recorded the anomaly. While I was writing, a single thump echoed through the floor. It came from Rule 5's door. Just once. No echo, no repeat. I waited. Counted my breaths. Nothing. Just the generator. Still humming. I wanted to call it thermal expansion. But I've built field stations before. Normal creaks don't feel deliberate. I turned off my flashlight and listened. The metal still resonated faintly like a heartbeat from the next room. My own pulse jumped. Training says, don't panic. Record. Observe. I photographed the footprint. Check the fuel, still 81%. Did a full circuit inside. No prints, nothing. Out of place. When I returned to ops, the radio crackled early. Outpost, relay your signals faint. Are you running backup power? Negative, I replied. Primaries stable, copy. You're 2 minutes early. By the way, I glanced at the clock, 1:58. But my note said 1:17. Somehow, I'd lost nearly an hour. But I remembered checking everything. My memo pad had no entries for that span. A chill crept up my spine unrelated to the cold. Oren wandered in, energized. You felt that. Sub 30 Hz pulse. Sensors hit to 100 pascals. The glacier sang a new note. I almost told him about the footprint and time loss. But I didn't. Professional pride. Maybe, instead, I asked, could that frequency resonate with the walls? Sounded like a hit. Maybe, he said, uncertain. By 3 o'clock, I convinced myself I'd misread the clock. Stress, easy mistake. Then I lifted my thermos, lukewarm, as if it had sat untouched for an hour. Small things, stacking. At 3:15, while reviewing camera feeds, I saw a True 5's corridor cam blink to black. 9 seconds. Log said signal loss. Every other camera was fine. Playback showed nothing, just absence. I loaded the shotgun. 5 shells, not bravado, just protocol. Next patrol was at 4 o'clock. But I wasn't waiting. I stood. Cracked my knuckles. I could almost feel that plaque staring at my back. Nobody opens the decommissioned wing. Rules have reasons, I told myself, and reasons can be understood. But looking down that hallway, I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Then it boomed again. Twice. Louder. Less like a warning, more like a demand. Out here. If a sound raises the hair on your arms, you treat it like an alarm. I chambered a slug and walked toward the corridor, not to enter, but to hold my ground. Another slam. 3 hits. Precise. Testing. I keyed my radio. All hands to ops. Now. Wilder arrived first. Mara and Oren followed. All tense, pretending not to be. I explained. The footprint. The missing time. The blackout. The noise. 10 seconds of silence. Then, Mara spoke. That are you lost? My logs show nothing either. It's like we didn't exist from 00 to 0300. Oren rubbed his temples. Could be electromagnetic distortion. Cavities in the ice bend low-frequency sound. Messes with electronics. Time perception. Time loss is one thing, I said. Footprints inside a locked yard are another. Wilder glanced at the shotgun. So what are we dealing with? Intruder. Hallucination. I pointed to the fuel. Level, 78%. Whatever this is, we're still within Rule 1. Let's keep it that way. We broke into tasks. Mara searched logs for other gaps. Oren double-checked sensor data. Wilder ran vitals. I returned to patrol, trying to ignore the ache in my skull and the shimmer in the LED light's dot at 3:45. The air felt thick. I reached the generator bay as its cooling fans changed pitch, a low groan beneath the steady hum. Fuel level, 74%, not dangerous, but the voltage was sagging just enough to dim the lights. I nudged the throttle, no response. Something was dragging on the shaft downstream. A soft hiss leaked from the diesel line. I cut the power, slid beneath the housing, and aimed my flashlight. The feed hose had tiny punctures, no larger than pencil tips, perfect circles like they'd been drilled from inside. Diesel sprayed in fine white jets. I clamped the line and patched it. While I worked, Wilder's voice cracked over the radio. "Elias, where are you? Generator bay. Get back here." Oren saw movement in medical. The med lab is the only module with exterior windows, narrow, double-paned, designed to vent quarantine air if necessary. I hurried down the hall, shotgun ready. Wilder met me at the hatch, eyes wide. Something moved behind that window. He whispered. Human-shaped, no frost buildup. Like it was warm. I eased the hatch open. The lab was brightly lit, harsh after the dim hallway. Stainless counters, sealed freezers, neatly arranged meds. Everything looked normal, but the air smelled metallic. Like old blood. Oren stood by the bulkhead, sensor tablet in hand. "I recorded the shape," he said, his voice shaky, on screen. Grainy night vision showed a tall figure moving past the window, but its limbs were too long. Its proportions distorted like a stretched shadow. The footage ended with static and the message, "Signal lost." Then Mara's voice came through, staticky. "Pulse in 10 seconds. I counted with her. At 0, the outpost shook. The lights flickered once, twice, then held steady. From deep within the structure came a low tone. More sensation than sound. My chest tightened. Wilder staggered, clutching a bench as his oximeter blared. Oren's tablet flared red, 280 pascals. The glacier's pushing back. Mara shouted, "Radio check." "Static," I replied. Rule 4, static means bunker, but leaving. The generator alone felt worse. I made a call. Wilder, go bunker with Mara. Treat her for overload. Oren, stay with me. Keep fuel above 70%. No one objected. We moved fast. The generator restarted cleanly, but I wasn't reassured. I told Oren to open the drum storeroom so we could replace the line. He swung the door and froze. Each to 100-liter. Drum had a crescent cut at the base, diesel pooled ankle deep. The cuts were surgical, curved, clean. Identical, no shards, no prints, no tool marks. Those drums were locked 10 minutes ago. Oren muttered. We sealed the hatch. A quick calculation told me we'd hit 69% fuel in 30 minutes. Below Rule 1's threshold. Lights would dim. The pulse would return in silence. We cut power to non-essentials, I said. And find what's drinking our diesel. Oren met my eyes. Or who? We followed the spill with flashlights, watching the diesel ripple like something swam beneath. Behind us, lights dimmed to orange. Mara was pulling circuits to buy us time. Then came a noise, wet, rhythmic, like fingers flicking liquid. It moved through the vents toward Rule 5's sealed door. If someone's inside, they're stealing fuel through the bulkhead, I said. We confront them face to face, not through a vent. Oren hesitated. Rule 5. I'm not opening it, I said. We returned to where the corridor cam had cut out. The door shimmered with a fresh streak of diesel, running from an invisible seam. Hold still, I whispered, remembering Mara's unofficial rule. If the lights flicker twice, freeze. They steadied, but in that half-second of darkness, I felt something pass like cold breath on skin. When the lights returned, a message had appeared in diesel, 70, then 69. A countdown, or a warning. We sprinted back. Diesel followed. Thin streams gliding against gravity. Wilder met us at the galley. Mara lay on a bench, pale but conscious. I dosed her, he said. Fuel's at 71. Falling fast. Mara forced a weak smile. The pulse was rebuilding. Intervals shortening. I explained the sabotage. Wilder's composure cracked. Someone here wants silence, he said. They want our hearts louder than the generator. Oren snapped his fingers. The resonance chambers. Old crews tried to capture the glacier's voice. Maybe it needs silence to feed. Feed on what? I asked. Wilder tapped his chest. Between heartbeats. The theory held. It fit every strange event. At 4:30, fuel hit 69.8%. We can isolate the main manifold, Mara typed, eyes blurry. But that risks shutting everything down. We stopped the leak. Don't starve the engine, whoever's cutting lines is moving through the vents, Oren added. We can flood them with CO. Won't hurt us if doors are sealed. We split. Wilder and Mara prepped ops. Oren and I donned masks and opened the suppression valve. Hissed through ceiling grates, fogging the halls. Fuel dropped 69.4%. A clang rang above a vent closing. Then another. Something was fleeing. The gas heading for medical. Wilder, I called. Track it. We ran. The curved hall cast strange shadows. My boots slid on the slick floor. At the hatch, I kicked the door in. Nothing moved. The lab window was frosted, as if a freezer had burst open. On the counter lay Wilder's pulse oximeter screen red, blinking 0%. That was on his wrist. 5 minutes ago, Oren whispered. I picked it up. The strap was warm. The lights flickered. We froze. A hum rolled through the deck deeper than before, gentle, like the glacier waking. The lights returned. A chill ran down my spine. Ops has gone dark, I said. We rushed back. The ops hatch hung open, its latch sliced. The metal edges glowed, faint red from friction. Inside nothing, no blood, no overturned chairs, just emptiness and a low hum. The generator's gauges read 69.1%. On Mara's console, the spectrogram showed new intervals 12 minutes and falling. The glacier's calling, Oren whispered. We answered it by going quiet. I gripped my shotgun. Then we make noise. We keep the generator alive. We find them. And we drag whoever's behind that door into the light. Above us, the vents creaked. Static would hit it for 45. 7 minutes. Enough to act or vanish. I loaded a fresh slug. Rule for still stands. But I'm done hiding. The lights dimmed then. Held their breath. Fuel hit 69%. Everything went quiet. I could hear my heartbeat steady and loud. I told Oren to monitor the gauges. I grabbed to work lights and ran toward the north hall. Bulbs flickered, chirped when dying. The outpost was learning to stay quiet. I called Wilder. Then Mara. No reply. At the infirmary. I saw frost-rimmed fingerprints distorted, stretched. Inside, an empty medkit. Missing. Beta blockers and duct tape. Wilder's emergency routine. At least he was mobile, I said aloud. Any chem movement? I radioed. None, Oren replied. Static blurred his voice. Fuel at 69. Shut down HVAC. Storage, everything but life support. We had no fix, but we had a clock. A clunk shuddered through the floor. I feared the generator stalled. Then a voice came through. Elias. Gates chained. Exterior lights are off. Rule 2. Finch, early, a relief hit me then doubt. No bootprints had ever led back out. Something's wrong, I told him. We'll open up. Movement at the window. Man, let me in. I sprinted. Oren called out. Fuel manifold tapped again. Pressure dropped to percent. Hold, I'm grabbing Finch. He's back or bait. Opening the gate required crawling through an old hatch. Outside, Finch stood by his tractor. Up close, his face was flushed, eyes dilated. Whole yard stinks of diesel, he muttered. No one's bleeding us, I said, waving him inside. While I resecured the chain, he pointed at the snowdrift. 3. New bootprints led toward the outpost. None returned. Back in ops, Oren looked shaken. Intervals down to 6 minutes. Red spikes climbed the spectrogram. Fuel held at 68.7%. The generator coughed. Finch opened his toolbox. Fuel line, clamps, battery drill. The exact gear I needed earlier. Brought spares, he said. Just a feeling. I sent him and Oren to repatch. Then told Finch what had happened. You think they crawled into the vents willingly? He asked. No. I touched my shotgun. Whoever took them keeps pointing us to that door. Finch nodded. Then we stopped guessing. He gestured toward Rule 5's corridor. Cut the problem off at the source. Hearing it out loud settled it. Wilder and Morrow were beyond that plator below it. Every rule we hesitated to break was tightening a rope around their necks. Static scratched through the radio. Mara's channel opened mic. Breathing, fast, shallow. Then 3 hollow knocks, metal on metal. Then silence. Suit up, I said. We prepped masks, lights, shotgun, tablet. I left a note. If we miss checkin', fuel main first, then find us. The corridor felt shorter now. The outpost leaned toward the door. Diesel still seeped along the seam. Oren's tablet flashed red. Pressure spike. 90 seconds to next pulse. Fast and loud, Finch said. He pried the bar from the hatch. Metal screeched. Bolts snapped. The spin handle turned. 60 seconds. I lifted the lights. Warm vapor leaked out, sweet smelling like burnt oil and blood. Finch swore, but kept going. The lock released. The door opened. Slick rails. A stairwell spiraled down. Frost at the top. Condensation below as if it led into a greenhouse. A breeze rose from the depths. And a pulse felt in my teeth. Thump. Pause. Thump perfectly timed. Move. I said. Shotgun up. Lights ready. The metal changed 20 steps. An older alloy. Stained. The pulse grew sharper. Oren's graph spiked. The signal matched vent depth below the glacier. On a landing, we found a strip of medical tape. Marker scrawl. Hear us in the gaps. Don't stop the noise. I pocketed it. Below, a bulkhead stood ajar. Hinges warped. Finch whispered. The hatch weighs to 100 kilos. No one replied. Inside, decades. Old fluorescent lights flickered on via motion sensors, revealing a lab frozen mid-evacuation. Desks overturned. Cables tangled like vines. Both walls were lined with resonance chambers, tall, steel pods sealed with rib-reinforced glass lids. One stood slightly ajar, the same pod from Oren's earlier survey. Below it, faint red LEDs pulsed in sync with the glacier's hum. The chamber was still active. Footprints lay in the dust between the pods, some booted, others bare. The bare ones were long and narrow, toes tapering unnaturally. They vanished beneath the open lid. Oren's knuckles whitened around his tablet. The arrays are drawing power from our generator. He said, if these pods resonate, they could amplify the glacier's note, bleeding off fuel as heat. Finch knelt near the power conduit. A thick cable had been cut and replaced with fresh wire, the same type stocked in Mara's comms kit. She patched this, he said quietly, maybe under pressure. I checked the safety on my shotgun. That means she's alive, or was. Not long ago, my portable meter read 69.3% fuel and dropping. Then the lights flickered once, twice. We froze. Inside the chamber row, something stirred. A hiss of vapor escaped the ajar lid. The mist rose, curled, then took shape, tall, long-limbed, almost human. Its surface shimmered like heat waves on pavement. It stepped forward, joints bending backward, then correcting, mimicking us. It had no face, just vague features pressed into vapor. I did the only thing left. When rules stopped protecting you, I made noise. I fired a slug into the ceiling. The blast echoed through the lab. The shape recoiled, flickering. The infrasound pulse stuttered, thrown off by the gunshot. Sound disrupts its form. Keep shooting. Oren yelled. I pumped another round, but before I could fire, the thing darted sideways toward the conduit. One arm lashed out. More whip than limb, severing the cable. Sparks flew. The pods went dark. The hum in my teeth stopped, replaced by a low groan deep in the glacier. Emergency lights blinked on red, dim. The vapor form collapsed into oily fluid that hissed as it ate into the floor, then evaporated. The silence that followed was worse than the hum. No generator noise, no diesel engine, just the glacier settling above us. Finch's radio squawked. Oren had patched it into the surface fuel monitors. A flat alarm tone followed. Fuel, 68.0%. Generator, offline. The sabotage was complete. I can hotwire a jumper, Finch said. His voice unsteady. But we have to bleed off the feedback first. If the gen set restarts against that note, it'll crash. I remembered the tape warning. Hear us in the gaps. Don't stop the noise. The rules weren't just for protection. They kept something in balance. Oren snapped out of it. We use the chambers. They're amplifiers. If we invert the phase, explain as we work, I ordered. He opened a service hatch, revealing analog dials and patch cords. Each pod captures pressure waves and rebroadcasts them at set phase. If we flip polarity, we create silences. Opposite, his fingers moved quickly over the controls. Finch spliced power. I went searching. Behind the last pod, a service alcove led to a locker room. Inside, Wilder, bound to a chair with his own duct tape, mask askew, alert eyes. Mara lay on the floor, wrists taped, still transmitting on her phone. Alive. I cut them free. Wilder whispered, "It wants quiet. It can't take shape if we drown it. We're working on it." I promised. He insisted on staying to monitor. Vitals. Typical. Finch's voice came over the radio. "Jump ready on your call." I took position by the shotgun mic in the first pod. Heart pounding. Oren, do it. He flipped 3 toggles. The lab speakers boomed a low counter note. Same pitch as the glacier, but inverted pressure troughs became peaks. My chest vibrated until I tasted blood through the hatch. We heard the generator cough. Catch roar back to life. Power surged. Pods lit up in sequence. The glacier's hum clashed with our synthetic growl like gears grinding. The floor trembled. Ice groaned. Cracks raced across the ceiling. Then, somewhere beyond, the creature screamed a howl that seemed to pull air away. The sound Doppler shifted up and away. I keyed the radio. Ops, generator stable, no reply. Then Finch whooped over comms. Fuel at 71% rising. The array's drawing load. Genset's loving it. Good, but the inversion would only buy U.S. time. The glacier was still channeling pressure. Once the phases slipped, we'd fail. Oren yelled over the noise. We shut the array, overload it. How? He pointed to a breaker the size of a suitcase. Kill the pods when the counter note peaks. Surge dumps into the vents, collapses them. Which might bury us, Wilder warned, or save everyone topside. I replied. Pulse interval, less than 2 minutes. We cinched watches. On 0, flip the breaker. Run for the stairs and hope. I cut Wilder's last restraints. Mara steadied herself, eyes fierce. We moved to position. 10 seconds. The hum and counter-hum merged, teeth-rattling resonance. 5. The floor buckled. Dust rain. Now. Oren yanked the breaker. Everything died. Then a blast of white sound. Not silence. It's inverse. It hit like a wave. Air slammed up the stairwell, pushing us. We ran. Behind us, metal screamed. Pods collapsed. Walls crumpled. The staircase shook. Steps vanishing beneath our boots. Momentum carried us into the corridor. Finch reached back, grabbed my coat, pulled me clear as the landing fell away into a chasm flashing with blue lightning. I swung the hatch shut, locked it. A pressure wave hit seconds later. The seal held. The outpost shuddered, then calmed. Silence. True, welcome silence. The generator rumbled again, steady. Proud. Wilder leaned on the wall. Pulse amplitude, 0, he said, checking his monitor. Just heartbeats now, Mara added. Radio. Relay back online. Guess we bought peace the old-fashioned way with noise. Finch grinned. Diesel smeared. Rule 5's amended. Some doors have to open before they can stay closed. I rested the shotgun on my shoulder. The weight finally eased. We'd broken every rule except the most important. Keep each other alive. But as we limped toward ops, Oren stared at his tablet. Guys, look. On the spectrogram, a faint spike. Every 59 minutes. Distant. Harmless. For now. But still there. The glacier still hummed, whispering in the dark, beneath our feet, waiting for silence to grow again. Our watch wasn't over. We didn't respond directly. We just fed it whatever noise we had. OP's speakers at full blast. Mic feedback pumped through duct-mounted transducers, turning every pipe into a makeshift kazoo. Vents rattled, dust falling like confetti. The banging got worse, darting between rooms, unable to form fully. Mara shouted over it all. The extraction team responded. They can't fly until dawn. 16 hours. That was far longer than our fuel reserves. 2 engines couldn't last that long. Meanwhile, more slits opened in our hoses. We were losing noise as fast as we made it. Oren's eyes moved quickly. There's one power source left, the glacier, pure kinetic energy. If we drop a seismic charge down the old access bore, trigger a slide, the entire fjord will resonate for hours. You mean start an avalanche? Wilder asked. A controlled one, Oren replied with a shrug. We load Finch's remaining diesel drums with C4 from the emergency stockpile. Lower them, detonate. The glacier vibrates itself quiet. Mara double-checked the relay bands. The lab notes had mentioned vented cavities nearly a kilometer below. Echo length, 9 minutes. It could drown everything out, she said, or split the station in half. I added. Wilder glanced at Finch's old code again. Better a cracked station than cracked rib cages. I thought about the risk 16 hours of trying to survive versus one big move to end the hum forever. Finch had left us tools. Maybe he'd also left us the nerve to use them. Prepare the charges. I said. We were going to finish what the first team tried to bury the hum. For good. Outside, the wind screamed like a blown-out speaker. The glacier answered in deep tones, somewhere far beneath us. It was as if silence itself was waiting to return the moment we stopped. We worked quickly, but carefully. There wasn't room for panic anymore. We zipped Finch's empty parka around an oxygen tank. To keep it upright beside us, none of us wanted to see it crumpled on the floor. I told myself the coat was our sixth crew member. Oren and Wilder dragged out for half-filled diesel drums, placing them on a sled designed for ice core transport. Mara brought out the emergency crate marked explosives, rescue use only. Nobody made jokes about the label. She clipped detonators through the drum bungs, her hands steady, her expression flat. The tractor engine and backup generator roared. Their hot exhaust forced through vents. Loud rock music blared from the ceiling. Even our breath came in short bursts, as if speaking too softly might let silence sneak back in. The plan was simple. Ride the sled to the drilling pad at the cliff's edge. Lower the drums a full kilometer down the old bore using the winch. Detonate from a ridge shelter, triggering a long slide that would destroy every vent tunnel. Get back before the cliff or the station gave way. Mara hit the relay again. Outpost requesting evac at dawn plus the unstable ice. Injured crew. Critical life support. The reply came broken. Earliest window 9:30 local. Weather marginal. Hold fast. 9:30 was 10 hours away. If the blast failed, we wouldn't last. Outside. Wind became a wall of sideways blasting snow, glowing in the tractor's lamps like sparks. We lashed the sled to the hitch. The tractor growled. 10 punishing minutes later, we arrived at the drilling pad. The treads chewed through snow that squeaked like styrofoam. Mara kept static blaring through her handheld speaker the entire way. Just in case, the pad was a steel deck suspended over the fjord. Years of ice expansion had left finger-width cracks. Below them nothing but blackness. The bore cap lay beneath a half-collapsed shack. We rolled the drums in, rigged the pulley, fed the cable down. The gauge read 1,000 meters. Oren set the timer, 14 minutes. 5 to get back, 8 for the echo, 1 for luck. I nodded, then hesitated. If the blast shakes the station apart. Wilder finished. Better we're out here than inside. He handed out beta blockers. Helps your heart ignore the fear. Swallow now. As the cable reeled, Mara pressed her ear to the wall of the shack. Beneath all the generator noise, there was a faint tapping like fingernails on chalkboard. 3 rooms away. Too rhythmic for wind. The hum had found us again. It could sense weakness through the static. The drums hit bottom. The cable slackened. Oren released the brake so we could launch the sled once clear. Timer, 12 minutes. We jumped onto the tractor. I drove. Wilder stood on the hitch with his shotgun, guarding the muffler duct in case something crawled in. Mara up front, holding the detonator, its red light blinking every second. The cabin shook like a tuning fork, every bolt vibrating wrong. Through the mirrors, I saw the snow distort perfect rings spreading out and breaking apart under the engine's growl. Midway back, Mara's music player died. The speaker dropped into silence. Sirens at the station faltered, half-powered. Noise floors. Dropping, Oren shouted. Backup generator might be failing. I pushed the throttle. The engine clattered like it was cutting itself apart. Then the outpost lights died. One wing at a time, only the backup exhaust remained faint, but still working. 5 minutes. To blast, Mara said. We either make it, or we don't. We reached the gate under falling ice. Wilder leapt down, forced the lock open. As we entered the yard, something slammed the roof hard enough to dent the frame. Another strike crushed the exhaust pipe. Noise spilled sideways. I drove until the sled hit the bunk module. Wilder fired the shotgun into the air-pure sound. Again, for more shots, each one stopped short by the wind. This way, he shouted. We ran into the vestibule. The backup generator still pulsed, weakly. Sirens died. The hum flowed through cracks. Thick and cold. Mara's timer, 90 seconds. We reached the ridge shelter, a steel bunker meant for avalanche crews. Floor drains, hand crank radio. Barely big enough for 4. Orrin slammed the hatch. Only sound left, our breathing, and the generator far below. 60 seconds. Tap tap. The hum knocked softly. It hit again, louder. The steel bowed inward. I remembered Finch in the machine bay, warning, if the hum gets in, chests will burst like wet paper. Wilder gave everyone ear protectors, one side off so he could still hear the timer. The hum scraped the wall, searching for a seam. We felt it probe the drains. Pipes rang like flutes underfoot. Orrin whispered a question. We didn't hear it, but his eyes asked, are we sure? I gave a thumbs up, trying to look confident. The hum found the vent grill overhead. Screws twisted like they were being turned. From outside. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A white flash split the cracks around the hatch. A roar followed, not just sound, but pressure. The floor bucked. Air slammed down, then sucked back upward. My head hit the wall, sparks behind my eyes. Everything went deep and distant like being dropped in the ocean. Vibrations pulsed, 9 full waves. Just as Orrin had calculated, each one softer, broader, but still enough to rattle steel. When they faded, silence tried to return but couldn't. The bunker still buzzed. Generator found its rhythm. Motion sensors misfired. Tractor horn blared. Noise glorious. Chaotic noise filled every space. Wilder took off his muff. No knocking. Only tinnitus and snow falling off rafters. Mara's tablet, miraculously working, showed the spectrogram. The spike was gone. A shredded static replaced it. She laughed, relieved, tears streaming. We opened the hatch. The corridor tilted slightly, but held. Windows showed a wall of avalanche debris outside, sealed tight. We stepped into a faint orange. Dawn. For hours left of the 40-day night. We had survived everything but the final sermon. The yard looked bombed. The drilling pad gone. Just a new shelf of snow hanging over the fjord. The tractor, half buried, engine dead. But the station still ran backup diesel thumping at 700 RPM. Its vibrations refused quiet. Wilder placed Finch's coat in the snow. A grave, he said. Noise saved us. Let the wind sing for him. We stood until the helicopters arrived. The crew lifted us out, one at a time. As the basket rose, I saw the half-buried plaque by the gate. Generator fuel never below 70%, no exterior lights. After 18 o'clock, main gate padlocked from outside. At dusk, hourly radio checks if static. Head to the bunker, never open the decommissioned wingwood. Broken every rule and lived. Maybe the rules weren't commandments, just markers from others who had walked the same dark dots, so we added our own. 6. When silence knocks, answer with everything you've got. Far above, the avalanche scar glittered. Fresh cracks covered the cliff face. The hum might still exist beneath the ice, but it would take centuries to return. In my pocket, Mara's encrypted drive blinked once every 59 minutes. Leftover heartbeat. Or a warning? I didn't care. This time, it belonged to us. When the interview team asked for my final statement, I gave them Finch's line loud and clear. If you're ever stationed somewhere with rules that make no sense, follow them first. Question them second. And if they fail, make better noise. The helicopter lifted us into the first sunrise we'd seen in 40 days. It was quiet in the cabin, but not silent. Engines hummed. Rotors chopped. Hearts beat. And down below, the glacier looked calm, almost peaceful. I let myself believe it would stay that way for a long, long time.